Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to make some basic core shapes using your core wool and the green tipped needle. So you're going to pull off a little bit of your core wool and you're going to roll this as tight as you possibly can. So as I'm rolling, you'll see that I'm just tucking in the edges and just rolling it up. So this is, I'm going to make a ball. If you were going to make a leg shape or something like that, then we would make a different shape, but I can show you that in a different video. So the bit where it's joined is just at the top, taking the needle, and I'm just going to do some gentle stabs. So that's enough just to hold it in place. So now we're just going to work on the shape. So as you see, I'm lifting up the ball of wool and I'm just turning it over and just stabbing all over. So the action of the stabbing is in and out in the same direction. So you don't want to go in at this direction and try and pull it out at that direction, because that's how you're going to break your needles. I'm not stabbing hard, just getting the barbs that are on the end of the needle here into the wool, and just keep turning and stabbing, turning and stabbing. So quite quickly it should start forming a shape. So I'm forming this one into a round, so obviously I'm working on the round shape as I'm moving the ball of wool around. So that's got a little bit of give in it, which we want it to have, but I want this to be a bigger ball. So what I'm going to do now is just take some more wool. There we go, another section of wool. If you get something like this in your wool, that's just called a piece of matter, so you will just pull that out. Maybe got a bit much there. So I'm going to put my ball into that wool and just wrap that round, again, nice and tightly. There's another little bit of matter, we'll just pull that out. There we go. And I'm just going to do the same again. So your core shapes don't need to be too perfect, because what you're going to do is you're going to cover your core shapes with whatever colour wool it is that you're working with to make the animal or the item that you've got in the kit that you've purchased. So the other thing you can do is you can take your bit of wool that you're working on and you can roll it in your hands, and that helps to create the shape. So if you can see here, it's still a little bit loose, so I'm just going to stab on there. Keep turning it round. So in your kit, you will have a template. So what you want to do is make your shape according to the template that you've got, and then you will offer it up to the template to see if what you've made matches the shapes and the dimensions that are on the kit template. So I'm going to leave that one as it is. I'm going to make another one because I want to show you how to add two balls together. So I'm just going to wrap this up as tight as I possibly can and make a smaller ball. So the bigger ball will be the body and this will be a head. So this is if I was making the duck, the Dotty Duck kit. So I'm just doing exactly the same as I did the first time. So I'm just moving my ball around and just stabbing. The action is going in and out in the same direction. So I can go in from this direction, I can go in from this direction or that direction, as long as I'm going in and out at the same direction. So that would probably need to be a little bit bigger. Yes, it would need to be a little bit bigger. So we'll take a little bit more wool. So this is in real time, so I'm not moving this on fast or anything. So you can see quite quickly, you should be able to build your shapes up. But it all depends on how well and how tight you roll your balls right from the beginning. The tighter, the better. And try not to use too much wool right from the start, because otherwise you're going to be stabbing for ages. So you take a small amount of wool and then build up. So I think this will be sufficient to be able to demonstrate how to add the two pieces together. So there we go. So I'm going to say that's the head, that's the body. So what I would recommend is at this stage you would cover your core shapes in the wool that's been provided. So with Dotty Duck, that would be a white. So cover both balls first with the white wool before you start attaching them. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to attach them in the core wool. So I'm just holding them gently into place. I'm going to take my green needle and I'm just going to poke down from the head to the body. I'm just going to move the shape around. And then I'll do it from the other direction, from the body up to the head. So you're just catching it in all ways. So just keep moving it round, just keep stabbing it on. You don't want to go too much in one section because you're just going to flatten the wool in that area. So just nice and gently working your way around. So that's actually held on there now, but it doesn't look too neat. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of the core wool. So you could take a little bit of the white wool because you would have already covered your core shapes. And I'm just going to place that around the join very, very loosely. And now I'm just tapping, really just tapping very lightly, just going through the top layer. I don't want to go too deep because I want to just cover the join. If you go too deep, it's just going to make it look a little bit funny and flat in places. And that's it, as simple as that. So yours would be in the white wool. This is just in the core wool for demonstration purposes. But then of course you would take maybe some of the colour, the orange, and you would make your beak and your legs. So I've got a little bit of wool here. We're going to make a leg. So because we're making a leg this time and not the bodies, I'm rolling it in like a sausage shape. It doesn't want to be too thick. So I'm not using core wool for this. We don't use the core wool when we're doing something that's quite small, because once you start stabbing, the core wool will show through all the time. So we just make it out of the coloured wool that you've been provided, but your instruction kit will tell you what wool to be using to make what item. So again, I'm just doing stabbing. I'm not going in too far. I'm turning my item round. So if you notice, I'm not stabbing up to the two ends. I want to leave one end loose to attach it to the body, and the other end I want loose because I'm going to turn that into the web foot. So I'm really just stabbing in this middle area. But again, like I say, the instructions and your template will demonstrate where you are to stab away. So I keep turning it round. If you don't go in too far, it creates less holes in the wool. And I'm still using the green tip. I haven't actually moved on to another coloured needle. Don't need to at this point. So now I can just roll that in my hands. And that just helps to take some of the fluff away. So now this end is what I will use to attach it, and this end I'm going to form the webbed foot. So where I've been stabbing, where it ends, I'm just folding it down onto my mat. I'm just try and move my hand out the way so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just folding that and stabbing that into the webbed foot shape. So I'll just hold back onto that so I can just dab around the base there. Now at this point, if I thought I needed some extra wool, we can add some extra orange wool to the base of the foot. So I'm just going to take a very small amount. Just going to scrunch that up and just lightly tap that on. Just catching the loose threads there with the needle and just pushing them over and stabbing it in. So this will stick to your sponge pad, but that's okay, it's not a problem. So I've lifted it up. I'm just going to manipulate it around a little bit and stab into the base there. Just really, you're just going to keep stabbing until you make it look nice and neat. So depending on how your stabbing motion is, depends on how long it's going to take you. But again, this is real time, so I'm not doing anything speeded up. So you can see mine's actually started to take shape quite quickly. So now I'm just being very gentle, keeping my fingers out the way and stabbing around the edges. So again, going in and out at the same angle, but as you can see, rather than going in and out this way, I'm now just turning my needle and going in and out on the edges to make a nice neat edge. So I shall hold that up, and I'm going to hold that in my fingers and just very, very gently stab around the edges there. Not going crazy, because otherwise you're going to stab yourself. But this just neatens the edges up, and you're just going to just lightly stab, turn it over and do exactly the same. And then on this end here as well. So what you can do at this stage is you can take a pair of scissors, and where you've got any fluff on the ends, you can just gently trim the fluff off. But you don't want to go too far into what you've created, because otherwise you'll find that your threads on the end go funny. So I'm literally just taking off the rough little threads there, the fluff as I call it, and we'll just take that off the mat and move it out the way. So there we go. So one leg created quite quickly. So what you want to do is use this as your template for your next leg. So you obviously want them to be the same. And then you're going to find the place on the duck where it's best going to sit. So I'm going to add mine down the side. So this is the bit that I left loose. Made sure that the foot is sitting up. So I'm just stabbing over this bit, and you can make this go a little bit flat as long as you've got plenty of wool just here that you've left on your loose bit. And now you can fold that over. There we go, and you're stabbing orange onto orange and just making it nice and neat. You're just going to work your way around the edges until that bit looks like leg join, nice and neat. Just keep moving it round. So what I would do is make sure you make both of your legs before you attach them. There you go. And then you would make your other leg, put it on this side. Just use your finger as a guide to make sure that you've got the feet in the right place. So you do the same thing for the beak. You would take a little bit of the orange wool and fold that into sort of like a beak shape. So it's going to be pointed at one end, and then the other end where we're going to attach it to here on the head, you want to leave loose. So pick it up, turn it over a few times, stab in from the edges. Just keep forming it into a beak shape. So I'm just forming that into a little bit of a point. So again, you would hold this up to your template to check to see if you've got the dimensions right. But actually what you want to do is make sure the dimensions are right for the duck that you're making. So as you can see, mine would possibly be a little bit big. So I could make the head a bit bigger on my duck if I wanted to. Or I can just keep stabbing. And just make this beak a little bit smaller. There we go. So then you'd find the place where you want to put your beak, hold it up, and then stab all the way around the edge. So you can see I've left a bit of orange all the way around, because we'll fold that back in on itself in a second. So just then gently stab. Difficult to demonstrate that. But I'm just gently stabbing that orange wall back in on itself, so it leaves a nice clean edge all the way around. So I still think my beak is possibly a little bit big, so I'll just stab it in a bit further. So at this point, if I'm not happy with the shape, you could always take a bit of extra wool and just build up this top bit, which I think I'll do because I'm not too happy with the shape of mine. There we go. That will do. So as you can see, it takes shape quite quickly. So hopefully that has demonstrated for you how to start making your core shapes. So if you were going to make a wing, you'd be making the wing out of the white wool. But I'm just going to use some of this core wool to demonstrate for now. So you're going to take a bit, not too much, I'm going to lay it down flat. And I'm still using the green needle. And I'm just going to stab all over there. Stab it down flat. So if you get into needle felting, there are some tools that you can buy rather than just having a single needle, and you can buy some multi-tools that are quite handy for felting flat. But there's no substitute really for learning how to do it with a single needle, just in case you haven't got a multi-tool. So I'm going to lift that up. I'm just going to demonstrate now with the multi-tool. So this is a multi-tool. It has a guard on it and it has got a few needles in. And as you stab, it's stabbing all of those needles in and helping you to keep it flat. So it just kind of speeds the process up a little bit, but you're still going to tidy it up with a single needle. Turn that over and then I'm going to stab from the other direction. Keep your fingers out of the way with this, because if you stab yourself with 8 needles, it really does hurt. So now I'm going to go back to my single needle and I'm just going to stab round the edges, just holding that very gently. like I say, you would be doing this with the white wool for Dotty. Thinking about your template in your kit, and you'd be offering up the shape that you've made to the template in the kit, because then that keeps everything in proportion if you make it according to the template. But if you've got an eye for detail, that's absolutely fine. You can go and do it just yourself without having to hold it up to the template all the time. So again, we've got one end that's loose, one end that we've formed neat into a point to make the little wing. So if you've got any hair straighteners at home, you can run your flat items through the hair straighteners just to get them nice and neat. I'm not going to do that on this video, but it is something that you can do, but just obviously don't keep it in the straighteners for too long and burn it. So you're just going to be putting it through the straighteners like that quite quickly. Again, you can trim off any fluffy bits on the ends, on the edges there, just to neaten it up. And then you would offer it up to your little ducky. So I think that would look all right. So I'm putting it on here, and I'm using all the wool that I've left loose just to stab that on into place. And because you would have made your wing out of the white, you'd just be stabbing white onto white, whereas I'm stabbing core wool onto core wool. And you're just going to do that until it looks nice and neat. And then we're just going to slightly shape that in that way. And you can always take extra bits of wool, just very small bits, and just go over your joins and just give it a nice neat finish. So you can take your blue needle, let's get my blue needle, that's a blue tip needle, and if you stab in at an angle with your blue needle, it does take away a lot of the needle marks. So just going to stab it in at an angle, and you would just go all the way over. Obviously you would have added your other legs and your other wings, etc. And maybe I would take a little bit there, look, just to fill that bit in. Just catch the ends. That's it, just disguises the join. There we go. And then you would take some of your black. I don't think I've got any black here, I've got a little bit of brown, I'll use that. And you're going to roll a very small ball in your finger and thumb, and then you would place that on where you want your eyes. Maybe go back to my green needle. There we go, that's one in. And you would do the same for the other eye. So obviously it needs another wing and another leg, but that is your basic duck design. And then you would do flat felting like we did with the wing to make the headband, and you would just pop that on in the same way that I've demonstrated with all the other bits. So there you go. Good luck.